Hi guys, today I am going to work on this tomato, and I wanted to highlight using multi-mediums together with colored pencil. And you can use colored pencil as a enhancer for other mediums, or you can just use it together kind of as a co-medium. And sometimes you can use other mediums with your colored pencil to enhance the colored pencil. So in this case, I have drawn an heirloom tomato. I've drawn it on with pencil and then painted it in with a light glaze or wash of acrylic color. And I've added in some shadowing in here, but it was a quick way to get the color in there. Now I'm going to work on it with colored pencil. I'm working on a piece of paper here, which is watercolor paper, so it's got a really good tooth to it. You can hear it, right? And I have a variety of pencils. And I also have a very similar looking picture of a tomato, however, not exactly the same as this one. And it's just going to be a guide to me so that I can kind of see some of these waxy areas and understand textures. And now, I could have saved out the area for the green stem area, or these little leaves and things that come out at the top. The nice nature of these waxy pencils is that some are kind of transparent, but for the most part I'm going to be able to cover that up. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. Instead, I am going to start out with a white pencil. And I'm going to go in here where I see there's highlights. I think I'll just go over this. Now, depending on the medium that you're using, if the medium that you're using doesn't soak too deeply into the paper, you could potentially take your, I love my erasers. And this one is this really fun mechanic eraser, or electric eraser. And if I go over that little area there, I can eventually make another somewhat soft highlight. But what I'm really doing is I'm taking a portion of the top surface of this paper off when I do that. Okay, but that's just another way of getting to those highlights. Makes you feel like you're at the dentist office. Okay. Not as bad if you don't have to be the patient, maybe. All right, so let's go back in here. I have a good dentist, so I shouldn't be making it sound like it's a scary endeavor, but okay, and I'm putting on a really nice heavy blotch of white. White is luckily quite opaque. Now, I'm not going to mess around with areas like this that are lighter because they're not necessarily lighter with white. Now, there's something kind of tricky about that. In colored pencils, some of the yellows are very transparent when you are using Prismacolor. In particular, see this one has a split, so bear with me, it may break. This particular pencil is the lemon yellow. You could be using the canary yellow if you wanted. And I'm going to put just a light, I'm scumbling right now, I'm going round and round. Okay, and in some of the areas that I think would be kind of yellow, I like these little areas here that are kind of yellow. It's almost a greenish tint to that. I don't want to miss out on that. So those are really happening in this particular tomato that I did because at some point I like just kind of doing my own thing, and I don't necessarily follow my picture as closely as what's there. So I can go in and put in some yellow areas to indicate that there's some less ripened areas. And if I want to, I can add some green. I'm going to use lime peel to just add a little touch of green. I'm using a really light touch here. Now, when I want to use the light touch with my colored pencils, I keep my hand to the back of the pencil so I don't put a lot of weight on the pencil. See how easy that went in? Okay, so let's just pop right into the red of this because I don't like to make really long videos for you to have to sit and watch, although if you're working with me, maybe it's beneficial to have me working with you through the whole thing. But I really want to get you, give you the idea of how easily and quickly this goes. Because you have color in the background already, it just goes on so easy. Now, this little thing that's going on right here is kind of like this, and I like that there's a yellow line in there. So before I just obliterate that, I could just put yellow on that now. If I did though, it would mix with the red that I just put in there. Because this is a wax pencil, the two would blend. So I'm going to go back, and if you don't have an electric eraser like this, you can use your regular eraser, no big deal. I just love that this little eraser gets these really fine little areas. And I can even take some of the pigment of the acrylic. Now, also, if you are a watercolorist or you don't have acrylic or you prefer using watercolor for some reason, or for any reason, there's a lot of good reasons, then watercolor is fine too. I just find with acrylic that when I'm glazing, I get, for some reason, I'm just put down heavier washes of color. So that's just me. And so I use that just because it would take me longer with watercolor to get as much color as I want on there. I'd have to do several layers. With acrylic, you know, I painted this in and I didn't go back and do it several times. I put it down and it was drying as I went. And I mixed the colors as I was painting it. So, and potentially you could even put down the acrylic, not even as a glaze, but down in a heavier coating. The only thing is it is a plastic, and so if you get it too heavy, you won't be able to get your colored pencil to stick to it. So, oil-based mediums, I don't believe this really will work with. So, I could be wrong. I haven't really tried it. I haven't given it a go, but okay, there we go. I like that better. Now, note that there's also just a little nuance of green happening in there too, and I like that too, because green is a complement to this red. So, there we go. Okay, so at this point all I have to do is just start coloring in. And like I said before, a lot of your work is done because you've already put down color. See, if I color on this paper with just colored pencil, I have all this white paper showing through, and I have to press pretty hard, and it can take me a long time and a lot of pigment to get to this. So this is just a way of getting this done really quickly. You could do this with watercolor pencils too. You could color it in and then go back and color it in with regular pencils or even with the watercolor pencils after it's dried. Again, that's the fun nature of watercolor pencil, is that you can do those kinds of things. But just see how quickly this is changing and developing into something a little more realistic. I don't want it to be completely realistic. I want it to be a little bit more vibrant and interesting than just a picture of a tomato, right? I want it to have a little bit of the feeling of, when I see these tomatoes, I think, oh wow, you know, that time of the year and how exciting and yummy they are. And I want that kind of, I want it to emit that kind of feeling. So there's this, do I really want to put that green in there? Or do I want to put it over here? Let's do. Now I could probably lay my green on top of this. It just depends on how transparent that particular pencil is, and because I don't know for sure, and because I don't want it to mix with any of the red that I potentially just put on there. I'm taking it off. It's just a little push and pull. And what is happening, what's going up in that area of the tomato up here has some light on it, right? And the tip of it isn't even green. It's just kind of yellowish, right? Let me bring this over so you can see it too. So, you know, the nice thing is this is not a nice, smooth, perfect line. It's just like a crumply, dried up, it's been off the vine for a little while look. So, whatever you do, you could probably draw this in with your feet and it would be fine. It'd still look right. So, okay, just like so. The trick sometimes about putting colored pencil down, okay, I got to put it down heavy enough to cover up the pigment underneath it, right? But then the other tricky part is if I put it down too thick, then I can't put any more wax on top of it to color it with any other colors. And I don't want it to just be flat. It'll look like a silk screen if I do that, which wouldn't be wrong, but that's not the effect I'm going for. So that was the lime peel green. Here's a little bit of dark green. This will come in your 24 set and is a handy color for sure. Okay, and I don't want to just outline it. I want it to look like it's crumpled up and the light is kind of reflecting off of it, right? Fun. It's fun to try to make some of these look so realistic. Now down in here I could probably add some, I could add black, but I would probably go more for a purple or something that has a little red in it as well, and make my own black, right, in this area that looks like a black right here. Something lovely is happening here. You see that the outline of the tomato is in front of that, right? I don't really want to lose that, so I'm going to put in those little lumps, those little hills of the tomato itself, and like I said, I don't want it to be just exactly like the picture. I just want it to kind of mimic some of the cool things about a tomato. How's that? Oops, I'm going to turn that into a dark line. I better watch out. I don't want it to just be completely dark coming out of there. All right, just like that. Not wrong. That's okay, right? I'm going to go in with this bright yellow and add a little bit of life to this lime peel green. This was the canary, or the lemon yellow. Down here too, and here. See how that really added some life to that, especially on the tip here where the light is shining on that. I tell you what, that could even be just a little bit of this. What is this, the Spanish orange? Yeah, this is such a pretty color. Whoops, okay, Spanish orange is super transparent, so not that one. Let's go in with a goldenrod. Let's see if I have a goldenrod in here somewhere. I'm working on so many projects and I band my colors together when I'm working on projects, and so now I can hardly find a color without going through every single one of these little project bands that I have. Okay, so that also was pretty transparent. So what I'm going to do to counteract that, put down some white, and then I can go back. I'm going to go back with my Spanish orange because I really like this color, and add it to that. Okay, so you see how it kind of allowed that orange to show through. Now my situation is that it's just like an orange tip and looks a little bit out of place, right? So come back in and sort of mix in just a little bit of this lime peel green to make it not look like it's something that shouldn't be there. I'm going to go back with a little bit of highlight on some of these crumpled leaves. I know that's not really happening in the picture, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then, you know, I don't want to just fill in the rest with green, so I'm going to use a blue. This blue is really, really a lighter blue than I normally would. It's a China blue, and because it's so pretty, I'm just gonna pop in here and use it. And I'm pressing super hard because I want this to be those black shadows, right? You can add a little bit on these crumpled bits here. Because it's working on top of another color, it's not going to be that strong blue. It's going to make some shadow looking areas. Okay, so if this little tomato top was all by itself on the paper, no one would be able to tell what it was, right? It'd be just a really nice little abstract shape. But because it's sitting on a tomato, it's pretty obvious that it's a tomato top, right? Here's a little Kelly green to soothe some of these areas a little bit. I'll have to do something with that one, won't I? Because it looks wrong. And now it looks extra, extra long, so and a little bit boring. Let's make it look like it has a reason for being long. Give it a wider tip down here. There we go. Okay. Starting to look more tomatoey. I like that. I like the fact that it's a little bit abstract and sticking out. I could stop at this point. It really doesn't look wrong, right? But this whole side over here wants a little something to happen to it. And there's a lot of red. Now, you know me, I like to flip my page, and I'm going to do that. There's reflected light over here, right? I don't want to lose that, and I don't want it to be yellow because it's a shadow, and it's a little bit cooler, right? So here I come with my white, just lightly, not hard like before. There's another little reflected light right there as well. But this just goes right off the end, right? Just like that. That's going to help it look more natural, more real. Now, I'm not coloring this way. I don't want those lines to just start going back and forth across my tomato, right? Gotta make sure I'm in the picture here so you can see. There's more reflected light up here, but it's a little bit warmer up there, right? And so it's more like it's reflected off of a window or something. So I'm going to come in here with the yellow just a little. And I feel like it's a little bit too yellow. So I'm going to go in then with the white and mix that in and just kind of tone it down. We already put the yellow in there, so we're good. I'm going to come back with a very bright red because I know this is not super bright over here. I'm going to add some purple to this to give it that shade. And see how fast this is going just because I already have that color in the background. Not the background, but the back of the tomato, right? It's blocked in. And once I get all of these colors in here, that's when I can start worrying about all these little interesting details, right? I don't want to mess with those right now. I haven't completely decided that my tomato is going to look like that anyway, so fill it in as you go and decide it as you go. There's just a little bit of reflected right there. And it's probably not quite that cold or that cool. Right. And it's also not that strong. So let's just tone it. I just want to make sure I have a little wax on this before I start adding the color that I want to use for my shadow. Because the darker colors, once you start putting them on, are going to take, and they're much harder to mute down and soften out. So light to dark is really the way to go with this. Okay, so now, well, it's already looking pretty good, right? I am going to use a color that I classically like to use. Let me sharpen real quick. All right, and this is a Parma Violet, and I use it a lot of times for shadows. You know, kind of a rule of thumb that I like is to use a complementary color for shadows oftentimes, but the Parma oftentimes is the complement for whatever I'm working with. And other times it's just a nice, because it's a secondary color and it's got a good mixture of red and blue in it, oftentimes it picks up, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's not too dark and it's not too red and it's not too blue. It's just somewhere in between. It's almost gray, right? So it still keeps life in the picture, but it doesn't overdo with color. Now, in this case, you know, if you're not much into the purple, go for a green for this because that is the complementary of this, right? I like the purple. I'm okay with it. I don't know. As I go, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know. Maybe it could use a little more green in it. Right? And if I think it's too purple, I can always go back and add. You know, the nice thing about heirloom tomatoes is that sometimes they are purple. Sometimes they have purple colors in them. There's all kinds of cool things happening in the background of this. I see all these wonderful highlights that I'm just had ignored before. I don't want to ignore them. I want to put them in because they're kind of cool. I just have to kind of make them up though because mine aren't in the same places. There we go. And some red and some purple to tone it down. Same over here because this is where it's receded a little. I had to do this one again and show you what it looks like with the green on it because it can be really fun with the green. Now, where this is going right next to the yellow and purple are complementary colors, so it's going to accentuate that a little bit. I don't have the second little divot that's happening in my picture here, but I do want a little bit of life on the edges of this, even though they're not really, in my picture, they're not really dark. I just kind of like where this is going. I'm going to get rid of this picture now because I like where this is headed instead, and I don't need that anymore to help me move along. There we go. I would say we're in the home stretch of this. I could add more. I can still see my painting through this, but I don't know that I need more, right? It's looking pretty good and colorful. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for tomatoes in the summer. There we go. So easy. Oh my gosh. See how quickly that came together? And it's just very tomato-like and beautiful. Yep, try this. Definitely get out your acrylics or your watercolors and give it a go. And write me some comments if you have any questions or if you enjoyed this. And I'll look forward to showing you some more colored pencil technique.